Well, again, welcome everyone to our final lunch conversation of the month. We have really enjoyed this month-long series, hearing and learning from so many great women who are very driven and inspirational. I hope you have enjoyed these conversations as much as we have. A couple of housekeeping items for you today. Your microphone and camera are off for today's session, but you can still participate at any time throughout today's conversation by asking questions via the Q&A or chat feature, which are located in your Zoom menu bar. And I'll be monitoring those throughout so that we can ask those of Barbara and Joni at any time. Also, we will be recording today's conversation and we'll provide a link to those recordings as well as the other conversations we've had this month on our website, HERkys.hawkeyesports.com. Now I'll turn it over to our Deputy Director of Athletics and Senior Women's Administrator, Barbara Burke.
Great, thanks so much, Jane, and welcome to everybody. As Jane mentioned, this is our last HERkys Hour, and it's hard to believe this is our fourth one. As you know, we've been celebrating National Girls and Women in Sports throughout the month of February. We've had a great time engaging with so many influential women, and I know you're going to really enjoy the conversation today, and can't thank you enough for the positive impact that you're making on our females and our Hawkeye program as a whole. Also, don't forget, we are continuing to celebrate Black History Month on our HERkys website. Every Monday, we've been releasing a video highlight of some of our former greats here at Iowa. So please take a moment, go to our website, enjoy their stories. There's some amazing people out there. As a reminder, you've heard me say this, I'm not bashful about talking about HERkys.hawkeyesports.com, where you can find everything, all you need to know about our HERkys community, which was founded in 2017. We have a commitment to celebrate the rich history and tradition of women's athletics here at the University of Iowa. We want to continue to provide opportunities for our female student athletes while also empowering this next wonderful generation of leaders in women's athletics. You know, today I am so thrilled to have a longtime leader in intercollegiate athletics with us, Dr. Joni Comstock. And Joni, welcome. We're so glad to have you today.
Thank you, Barbara. It's great to be here. Yeah, this is a privilege for me.
Awesome. Well, let me share a little bit about Joni and what she's been up to, and then we will open it up to questions. Don't forget, you can pop a question in through the chat as well. Joni currently serves as the Senior Vice President of Championships and Senior Women's Administrator at the NC2A. I'm going to read you all the things that she does. I'm not sure there's anything left to do, Joni, at the NC2A, but her duties include oversight of 84 NC2A championships, media coordination and statistics, playing rules, ticket operations and marketing, merchandise and licensing, and social and digital media. Before she joined the NC2A, Joni also served as an NC2A Division I Athletic Director at American University and the University of North Carolina, Asheville. She's also been part of the Big Ten with 2 leadership roles at Purdue and Illinois. And Joni, we won't hold that against you because you're visiting with us here at Iowa. Joni and I go back a little ways. We have a connection through Eastern Illinois University. I had the opportunity to serve as Director of Athletics at EIU, where Joni earned her undergraduate degree. And Joni also competed in volleyball and badminton. And yes, badminton used to be an NC2A sponsored sport, right, Joni?
That's right.
It was, and she played that sport. In 2013, Joni was recognized by the Eastern Illinois University Athletics Department as one of the 10 most significant contributors to Panther women's athletics during the school celebration of the 40th anniversary of Title IX. I am so proud and happy to call Joni a mentor and a friend. So again, Joni, thank you for joining us today. And we touched on it briefly. This is such a busy time for you, and we've pulled you away from that. And I mentioned 84 championships. With the pandemic, I don't know if all of our listeners are aware, but the majority, if not all, of the NC2A championships are being played this spring. Much like here on our campus, we have 23 sports currently in competition. It's challenging for us. I can't imagine how you're managing that at the NC2A. How are you doing all of that?
Well, first of all, if I could, Barbara, I want to say again, thank you so much for the invitation today, and even more, for all of you who are supporting, first of all, intercollegiate athletics and the opportunity for all the student athletes. But I think for Barbara and me and so many others, it's incredibly important to provide this opportunity for female student athletes, and for you to be behind this, to be here all this month, and all of the other things that you're doing to support all of the women at the University of Iowa. I want to say congratulations to you for that. That is leadership, and that's so very important. So with respect to what I have kind of going on, the NCAA is somewhat the same. We have 24 sports, and obviously both genders, and then 3 divisions of sports, and then the championships. So all of that multiplied together is a total of 90 championships that the NCAA offers on an annual basis. And that provides, again, cutting across all 3 divisions, it's about 60,000 student athletes who get the opportunity to participate in NCAA championships. And so then to slice it one more way, it's always, people always laugh. So we have 90 championships, as I said, and then I have 84 of them. So my colleague, Dan Gavitt, who's just a tremendous person, and Lynn Holtzman, who takes care of the women's basketball championship, those two take the men's women's basketball. So that's 6 championships. Those two have those, and then I have the other 84. So sometimes people say, what about the math and the numbers on that? And so, Barbara, I think just like you, the more I can get involved, and I consider obviously what I have the opportunity to do just really fun, and a privilege to do it.
Awesome. Joni, when do you remember becoming interested in sports and your first opportunity to really compete in athletics?
Sure. So probably like many of you, and I'm proud to say this, as Barbara said, I'm from the Midwest. I grew up in a little town just north of Springfield, Illinois. And so at least at that time period, you sort of did the simple things. And so our family was very much based around watching sports, or going to see the local sporting events, and then just kind of, service in your community and those sorts of things. And so the funny thing in our family is that we were all, as I said, interested in sports. But what I remember very, very early, even before any competition, it was really my mother who was really the competitor. And it didn't matter whether we set up croquet in the backyard, or we were playing cards, or sometimes we would go in the backyard and she would be hanging up laundry, and she'd look over at me and she'd say, "Do you want to race from the front of the backyard, to the back end?" And so she'd put her laundry basket down and we'd race. And sometimes I wondered, she would never let me win. She would be full out and my little legs would be going. And but competition was something, and I'm very proud of her, that I think I learned early and didn't know any better, that, well, of course, women competed and loved to play sports and games. And so I think by virtue of that, and both of my parents got my sister and I both involved very early, whether it was tennis or t-ball or swimming, or those opportunities at that time that were available to young girls. So it was pretty much always a part of what I thought about.
And Joni, I would tell you, all of our guests that we've had on the webinar so far have talked about that influence, that family influence, and that support. And really, when I was younger, when you were younger, it was just playing, and it was participating, and then it became much more competitive. But really glad that you shared a little bit about your family and their support of you, because I think that's really important for what we do. You've had an amazing career. You've been an athletic director. You've been, an administrator at Big Ten institutions. You've been an athletic director, and now you're at the highest level of the NC2A. What are some things that you could share with our listeners that helped you get to where you are today, whether it's through your AD roles, or, what are some things that you really focused on to get where you are today?
Yeah. So, I think there are probably a lot of commonalities with many of you. I think that as I said, always kind of thought, wow, this sports, this is really fun. Never really thought it was going to be my career. But one of the things that was, again, sort of another piece of the family early was my father served on the local school board, and he was very committed to the education piece, and also fought early as head of the school board to put those opportunities in for girls and women when Title IX came about, and there was a lot of discussion about that. So I watched that. I was very proud of that. And so early, quite honestly, I thought, okay, well, sort of this education piece, I'll be a teacher. And so had the opportunity, loved my experience at Eastern. It was the perfect size school for me. I had wonderful teachers and professors, and had a wide variety of things that I had the opportunity to do. And so I think all of those things set the tone very early. And it was, I got a lot of confidence from those things. And so have never been willing to not sort of raise my hand, jump in, and kind of try things. I do think that's one of the things as women, we've got to be sure that we are focusing on our confidence. We kind of get used to jumping in there once in a while and something not going right, and you pick yourself up and keep going. I think the other thing for me is that, again, it's just the fun that I've had, and really feeling so good about the things that we can do to provide opportunities for, certainly in this case, as we talk about the young women, but men and women, because I don't think there's anything better than that prepares you for life than the experience of either high school or college athletics. And I'm just going to say one other thing quickly. I had a young man in here yesterday in the office, and I've been mentoring him a little bit. And one of the things that I shared with him is that my very first job was at a small private junior college, actually in my hometown. I had the opportunity to go back there for 2 or 3 years. And I remember the experience of starting to work on campus. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is really great. If somebody would pay me the rest of my life to just hang out on campus and do whatever they asked me to do, that would just be amazing. And so what's been really great is that I would still say that today, that I look around, and whether it was when I was coaching or all of the times that I was in the Big Ten or at American University, wherever, I thought, this is so great. They are paying me to do this. And so I still feel like that today. And so, we just keep going.
That's awesome, because it is wonderful to be able to have a job that you love, and seeing these young people grow from that freshman to senior year and graduate and move on. We actually get to see a little bit of that finished product, and you see that even at the NC2A. You said a couple things there that I want to hit on. You used the word mentor. And so did you, or do you have a mentor that maybe gave you a piece of advice that helped you to stay positive and continue to love what you love doing?
Yeah. So, I think without a doubt, I think we all have had many, many people who have influenced us. And so I remember probably the first one that I had was at this small junior college that I referred to. And I had encouragement then to really explore different things. I talked to happened to be the dean of the college. And so he spent a little time with me and encouraged me to, again, sort of volunteer. And so I coached and I taught a little bit there, but I worked in the admissions office. I was in financial aid. I needed enough money to buy a car. I think the second summer I was there. So I worked out I was helping mow grass and all of those sorts of things, and lived in the residence halls. And so he was fabulous, just again, getting me started. And then I had the opportunity right away. I went back to graduate school at the University of Illinois. And no doubt, Carol Kars at that time, who was the senior associate at Illinois, and I would have to say, Barbara, no doubt we all had the opportunity to listen to and be inspired by Christine Grant and so many of the tremendous women who were in the Big Ten at that time. And then after I left Illinois and I went to Purdue, Morgan Burke certainly served in that role. And then I would say past that, I had a number of people, but first worked at the NCAA national office for Miles Brand, who was actually, I met him, another Big Ten connection. He had been president at Indiana University. And now currently Mark Emmert, who is our current president, is also just a fabulous leader, has great vision and I think great courage, which we need right now to just kind of, see our way through all of this.
Amazing. I'm going to slip over to Jane. I think we have a question coming through the chat.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Awesome.
So one is, do you miss working directly on a campus, like with, athletics, coaches and student athletes more directly?
Yeah, I do. And I will tell you that I have loved this. I think I'm approaching 15 years now at the NCAA national office. And so I have always, and I really still kind of describe myself as, I'm really a campus person. And I do want to tell you one just very quick, funny story about that. I was, as Barbara said, I was director of athletics at American University. So one night I came home and it was the old, that was back so long ago, right? That my cell phone didn't even work very well inside the house. And so the phone rings and I have to go out in the front porch to take this phone call. And it was Miles Brand, who was, as I said, who was president at the NCAA. And I'd gotten to know him quite well, just obviously by virtue of working at Purdue and then being on the women's basketball committee. So Miles called and he said, hey, I just want to make you aware there's a job open at the national office. We're, kind of seeking people who would be interested in applying for the position. And I said, Miles, there are two things here. I said, first of all, I love campus and I'm not going to be a bureaucrat in that national office. And second of all, I worked at Purdue for 12 years, so I don't know that I can work for an Indiana president. And so he laughed and he said, well, how about just think about it for me and I'll call you back. And so having the opportunity, quite frankly, to work within championships, a person like Miles, who I knew quite well, that made a difference for me. I had no thought in my mind that I would work in the national office now for 15 years. But I have enjoyed it and hopefully have made a few contributions. But deep down, I'm still one of those campus people.
Joni, for our listeners, they may not understand there's a big difference between being in a conference office and being on a campus. How do you think being on a campus helped prepare you for that role? And is that a great step for someone to take that might inspire to be at a conference office?
Yeah, I think definitely that's one of the things that Miles started. And then Mark has been with the national office, Mark Emmert, for 10 years, and he's made an enormous shift to bring people who have significant campus athletic experience or even some faculty members to really bring that into the national office, because we can engage in conversations about, some issue that has come up or some problem. And I'm not saying that those of us who have been on campus, we certainly don't have all of the answers, but I can usually turn to my colleagues who, again, Stan Wilcox, who just joined us a couple of years ago. He was the director of athletics at Florida State. And so we have a number of people now, and we can sort of turn to one another and look. And as we discuss possible solutions to things, we can for sure tell them what's not going to work based on maybe how coaches view things or the things that student athletes need.
Yeah, awesome. Jane, I think you have another question from our listeners.
I do. So we talked about how you manage the 84 championships. So that means you have a large team in the office helping you. Do you have some keys to success that have kind of helped you lead this large number of people that you can share with our listeners?
Sure. Well, so I think one of the things is just making it very clear about what you're trying to accomplish and your really vision. I found that to be incredibly important as I've worked my way through. So early when I was a leader and manager, I thought, well, of course they know what I want them to do, only to find out that, sometimes you've got to be very clear, just like the head coach, right? What play are we going to run? And so we talk all the time about what our mission is. And you can see behind me, we have 4 sort of what we call values. And we talk about those things all the time. We reinforce them. I'm a big person who believes that in everything you do every day, all the time, that you have to bring integrity. And if I do that, then my staff's going to trust me. We're going to be able to work together and and be as successful as we possibly can. I'm just day to day, I'm definitely a person who likes to walk around and talk to people, see how they're doing. I think it matters a great deal. And I think it's particularly true as I've gotten a little bit older and much of my staff is significantly younger. I have to take a little time to talk with them, and they really have to know that I'm approachable, and they have to know that I care about more than just whatever they're working on in their cubicle to get ready for a championship.
That's awesome. Great advice. Being approachable. I think that's so important in our day-to-day lives and what we do. And I think, Joni, you have I won't call it a slogan, but your personal career, you have not shied away from new opportunities, just like you stepped in to the NC2A. And I think you've used that term. You want to encourage others to step in to new opportunities. Can you expand on what you mean by that?
Sure. I think that, for me, I come every day and I think, okay, today is the most important day of my work life. And that doesn't mean I'm not a 24/7, I believe in working hard, but you got to take some time off and get away from whatever it is you're doing. But when I come in the office, I'm all in with our staff, with whatever it is that we're doing. And today's the day. And so I think that just, moment by moment, that's one of the things that is important. When I was at the University of Illinois, I had a professor, and he talked about the fact that it was really important to be effective in helping other people solve their problems. And so I sort of live by that a little bit. And I also think sometimes if you jump in early and you offer to be a part of a new project, well then, hey, you know what, if you make a few more mistakes trying to figure it out early in it, it's, people maybe are a little bit more accepting of those mistakes. And so for example, as I've again gotten in the later part of my career, there's so many new things that I've tried to be a part of. Mark Emmert was trying to figure out whether or not we could be of service to the membership, and should we be doing something around esports. Okay, so I didn't know one thing about it. I didn't know. So I now have, for those of you who are into the whole thing, I now have a Twitch account, which is how one of the ways that you compete. Now, I don't do video games in my spare time, but I know what it is. And if our membership or our campuses, whatever, if we want to go that direction, I now understand it a little bit. We had obviously some changes in our country a year or so ago around sports wagering. And so I didn't really know anything about that either, but we needed somebody to kind of figure it out. And so I put together a team within the national office, and I said, okay, let's put together educational materials. Let's see what it means. Let's, all of those things. And so hopefully it's made me a valuable contributor, but it's also, again, made it more fun to just, make sure that I'm staying sort of up with things. And, a few years ago, it was social media, and I'm still not great with all of that, but I can hold my own.
That's awesome. I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you if esports is going to become an emerging sport. I don't want to know that answer just yet. But you're way ahead of me in being educated on esports, certainly. But what an opportunity. Jane, I think we have a couple more questions coming from our listeners.
We do. You mentioned earlier that you were mentoring a young man. What this individual is wondering, how do we continue to foster kind of those relationships in our organization where maybe young men can feel comfortable or seeing women as a mentor opportunity?
Yeah, that's a good question. I try to, as I had shared before, I try to open myself up very much to anybody who wants to engage in conversation about what's going on at the national office or their careers or any of those sorts of things. One of my other kind of things that I like to say when we hire new staff is that we are very professional here within the national office, but we're also very casual. And so what that means to me is I want people, whether it is the newest member of our staff or an intern or whoever it is, my door is open, and they can, if they need something and they want to talk to me about something, my door is open just as much as their direct supervisor. We kind of keep, good communication in those areas, but I hope it's because I set sort of an environment and atmosphere of being open and welcoming. And I will say, of course, and I'm proud that I have several more mentees that are young women that are going to be fabulous young athletic directors or commissioners or something one of these days. And so it's fun to help them, but it doesn't matter. If somebody wants to talk about intercollegiate athletics and where they're going, I'm in.
I think that's so important, Joni and Jane, and a lot of the staff know I use the slogan, if not me, then who? And if we're not willing to mentor anyone that has an interest in our business, then who's going to do that? And so I take great pride in that, and just as I know you do as well. Jane, I think you had another question coming through the chat.
Yeah. What do you do kind of for continuing education or to just keep learning more? Do you have favorite books that you turn to? And what are you reading now?
Okay. Well, that is a great question. So yeah, I enjoy reading. And so one of the things that I kind of found here recently is an app online, and it's called Blinkist. And so actually, there are some books that I take a complete interest in, and I read the whole thing. And then otherwise, I have this, again, this sort of app, and as I said, it's called Blinkist, and I cheat a little bit. And it's basically cliff notes of books. And so people will maybe recommend something, and if I don't have time to read the entire thing, then I'll take a peek at it through Blinkist and go one way or the other. But it both work really well for me. I actually had one of my mentees the other day say, "Hey, I read this great book, and I'm going to share it with our student athletes, and it's called Atomic Habits." And so I just got it, haven't opened it yet, but I'm going to read that as soon as things slow down here just a little bit. But I try to read a variety of things. I like a little history. Of course, I like to read about incredible women and some of the contributions that they've made, and I'm a big fan of Eleanor Roosevelt and all kinds of it doesn't really matter. I read several books and Catherine Graham, and I just think those are tremendous, and all of the women who have come before us doing great things. That it's very inspiring to me.
Joni, you just mentioned several women and those that have come before us, and we owe a lot to them. And one of the things that has concerned me and continues to concern me is our current student athletes, and in particular our female student athletes. They seem to think that what they have now is what has always been. Mm-hmm. What are some things or some suggestions that you can have for us and our listeners on how we continue to educate our young women on, number one, the value of athletics, but our responsibility to pay it forward?
Yeah, it's I remember the first time that happened to me, that I started engaging in conversation with some younger women, and they really weren't that familiar with Title IX. And I was like, oh my gosh, and this whole thing of like, well, it's always been here. And so I was, the first few times it happened, I was just appalled. And I thought, well, you know, that's unbelievable. And so we have to do more. And I think that knowing our history and those things are incredibly, incredibly important. Sometimes, however, I've been thinking lately that, well, maybe that's not an altogether bad thing, that they assume that athletics, of course, is an equal opportunity provider, and that young men and young women both should have the opportunity, and they don't know anything otherwise. And so part of that, I think, is okay. I do think that, you know, as we all know, there are so many doors yet to be opened for women and by women, and that, you know, we've not yet kind of conquered. And so I think with respect to really looking forward, whether it is, you know, talking about still the importance of federal legislation like Title IX to provide opportunities to women. I think all of those things that we do have to talk them up. We have to make sure that people are aware of them. But I think the other thing really is just looking forward and making sure, you know, so, you know, I don't want to get at all political, but that I was happy, you know, because we have a woman who is now a vice president, and I you know, again, that's not a political statement, but when are we going to get that woman who is the president? And so those things need to be happening. You know, just again, not to go off on a tangent, but I've been, you know, we've had a lot of women who have been presidents of Big Ten universities, and I think that's great. I think the Big Ten has been somewhat of a leader there, and I'm proud of that. And, you know, again, so many of those things, you know, we just have to keep pushing forward and finish it so that true opportunities are for all people in this country.
I absolutely agree, Joni, that there's a part of me that's glad our young women feel that what they have is what has always been, because that tells me we're doing a good job of providing for their needs and their wants and their wishes and all those. And then there's another part of me that doesn't want them to forget that there were women that came before them that made sacrifices for them to have the things that they have. And that's where, you know, I think it's important for individuals like ourselves and many of our listeners to continue to educate those young women. You know, we've all had obstacles to overcome, and men have had obstacles, women have had obstacles. Is there any one time or point in your career where you felt like you hit an obstacle head on, you defeated it, and that really kind of, you know, bounced you ahead to where you are today?
You know, I think, you know, Barbara, you know, you and I sort of grew up in that time period that we looked, maybe we were in high school and we didn't, you know, we knew of these women like Christine Grant or Carol Kars or Phyllis Howlett, who was the Associate Commissioner of the Big Ten, or whoever those women would be. And they were in, you know, fabulous roles, and they were doing great things, but they weren't like the athletic director or the commissioner over the total program. And so I think it's interesting when I reflect back. I think early in my career, then it didn't occur to me, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe you know, I will stay on the campus. Maybe I will pursue sports, and athletic administration. But and I say this, I was proud. I wanted that role of SWA and you know, senior associate, and you know, early I didn't really think, oh, I can be an athletic director. Well, one of the things that sort of happened to me was I was a grad student actually at Illinois the same time Sandy Barber, who of course is at Penn State, was at Northwestern as a grad student. So one time I was visiting Northwestern, and we were, I'm sure Illinois and Northwestern were playing, I don't even remember what sport it was. And so Sandy came up, she introduced herself to me, and she talked about her grad school, et cetera. And she said, you know what? She said, I'm going to be an athletic director. And I remember thinking, wow, really? Okay. And sort of went on my way for a number of years. And then we all, Barbara, you know, you and I saw that early. We saw people starting to get those opportunities as athletic directors. you were one of those people who broke the barrier. Step in, be the first woman as athletic director, be that ultimate leader, be, and take the roles like you have today. This is for you to have the role that you have at Iowa as part of the Big Ten. That's a really big deal. And you are a role model. You're mentoring probably so many women that you don't even know you're mentoring by them watching what you are doing. And so I think it was that, again, just to again circle back, I think it was that time when I realized, hey, yeah, Sandy's right. Barbara and I, we can go be athletic directors if we want. And just okay, then I'm going to go do it. I'm going to apply, and there may be going to be places that they're not ready for a woman, and that's their problem. But there are a lot of places that want the best leader that they can get, and that's going to be Barbara, and that's going to be me, and we're going to have opportunities.
And I think it's so important that people see individuals that look like them achieving success, because it gives you hope, it gives you pride, it gives you opportunities, and that's what we're about. I think our last question for you, Joni, today, and then we're going to wrap up with some exciting news here for our listeners. But if you could leave one piece of advice for some of the individuals on the call that maybe are looking to get into intercollegiate athletics, there's so many more opportunities out there now than there ever used to be. What might that advice be?
I think I think this is universal. I don't know. I've thought, oh gosh, are things so different when I started, whatever it was, 35 or whatever years ago. But really, Barbara, I think getting clear about maybe the things that you are truly interested in and passionate about, getting some training, and then being bold about just trying to get your foot in the door. And I was in grad school at Illinois, and I volunteered in the athletic department, and it wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't I wasn't doing like really great cool things, but it was, somebody pushed the door open for me a little bit, and I ran through it.
Yeah.
And I think that those things they were universal when you and I were getting started, and I think they still are today. And talking about what you want, let people help you. And I would say that's the other thing that has really been something that I think has contributed to my career, and that is relationships and taking care of them. And I'm probably a medium quality networker, but the relationships that I have, I try to have them have integrity in them. I try to have them be lasting relationships, and those things have paid off in terms of helping me advance in my career, because it's also the people as well as all the things that you can write down in your resume that you've accomplished.
Such great advice, getting to know people, being in the right place. Your term of step in, and I like to say step in, but also step out and put yourself out there and just achieve your goals. And there's a lot of people that want to help you do that. Joni, I can't thank you enough for taking time to join us today. And as I said, we have some exciting news. A lot of you have known about this, but we just want to share some positive things, as today we've been talking a little bit about leadership, and also about some great things that are happening in our athletics department. As you know, part of our goal as a Hawkeye community is to assist in growing and celebrating and supporting our female student athletes. And due to a wonderful lead gift by anonymous donor, can't share who that is just yet, and additional gifts by multiple individuals, we're excited to see the progress on our brand new women's soccer facility. This is the second facility on our campus that was dedicated to women's athletics. Our first building, the P. Sue Beckwith Boathouse, was made possible by Dr. Sue Beckwith. And now our second building, our yet to be named soccer facility. Last spring, we had our groundbreaking ceremony, and we put together a very brief video, less than a minute or about a minute. And what you're going to see in here is an excited group of young women, and that's why we do what we do. So Jane, let's watch this groundbreaking video.
It's truly a student-athlete-led building, all the way to how we designed it and what spaces that we wanted to be bigger than others, so that they can, study out here, they can get treatment out here, they can be pre and post game and training sessions, spend time with meetings with the coaches out here, and really the whole lifeline for a student-athlete that they have as a Big Ten at the Big Ten level.
A vision that Coach Diani's had for quite a while, and as we always say, vision without resources is irrelevant. Well, during a very difficult financial time, we have some donors who have stepped up, and it's because of them that we're able to do this.
It's just so nice knowing that we have people that care about the program and care about the soccer team as much as we do. So it's super exciting. We're so thankful for those donors and that they were able to do this for us.
It's amazing. We're so thankful. It's so impressive how much people are willing to put forward to us, and it makes us feel like we're really supported and there's people looking out for us and care about our team.
Well, I want to make sure that we give you an update, even during the pandemic and all the issues that we've gone through. We did have a groundbreaking, as you saw, and now I think, Jane, you're able to show us some updated still photos of the progress of the facility. As you know, it's attached directly to the soccer field. It will provide all the needs that our women's soccer team has. Our visitors' needs will be met as well. This was all made possible due to private support. There's no university funds that went into this project. The building should be up and running and ready for occupancy this fall. So we're so excited about that. And you too, you can make a difference in supporting Iowa women's athletics through the HERkys Excellence Fund. You can find that at herkys.hawkeyesports.com, our crowdfunding site located in the chat. And HERkys is also going to be a featured area on the One Day for Iowa on March 24th. I really hope and sincerely hope that you have enjoyed all of our HERkys hours. And as I've done in the past, I'm going to leave you with a final quote today, and it is based upon leadership. But before I get to the quote, I want to encourage all of you to Google the individual of whose quote I'm going to use, and you see her on your screen. That is Rear Admiral Grace Murray Hopper. I don't have time to tell you all of her accolades, but she was simply amazing. And just looking at her photo, I'm not sure I'd want to get on her bad side. Now, while all of her accolades might not be related to intercollegiate athletics, we can certainly learn from her perseverance and her commitment. Without question, she was an outstanding leader and a pioneer for women in the military, and in particular, her area of studies in mathematics. She was nicknamed Amazing Grace, and I think that's hilarious but wonderful. 6 very simple words, you've probably heard them, but she said, "You manage things, you lead people." What a wonderful statement and a way to lead our HERkys hour today. Thank you all for joining us. Joni, thank you so much for being here. I know our guests really appreciate it. And so that we will sign off with Go Hawks.